I'm Scott Al Miller. It's the 24th of March, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life in Nicaragua. Today we're going to diverge from what we normally talk about and talk a little bit about things you just need to know as people living in the 21st century. We're going to talk about email security for end users, for you guys, after the bump. To kick things off today, we are out in Canales. I was up here doing the last few days of filming and it was so beautiful that I decided to come do my walk out here again today. It's lovely. The sun is getting low. I was going to come out earlier, but I had some emergencies at work that I had to deal with that prompted this discussion, so I'm using them as a way to leverage into today's topic. But just real quickly, today is today's Friday. We had a normal work day, and then this evening we went out awfully late. So we started at Via Via, went and saw a band playing there, had a nice evening hanging out at Via Via. When they were done, we went to Gecko's, and Dominica wanted to go and stay out late. April came out. We don't normally all get to go out, so it was nice that we were all able to hang out, but we drank a bit and stayed out until, I'm told, about 3:30 in the morning. I didn't really pay attention. The kids are like, you're out till 3:30. So it was really late when we got back home, and that made for an exhausting evening, but it was really nice getting to go out and hang out. We actually had dinner at home before we went out. We've gotten so much better at eating at home and saving money. And it's funny because in Nicaragua everything is so cheap, but it's still cheaper to eat at home than to go out to restaurants. So we've been trying to do that a little bit more. Oh, there's a dog in the weeds. And it's been good. We're eating healthier, we're eating cheaper. So we had dinner at home and then went out and hung out at Via Via, and then Gecko's, both with live music. So we went and saw bands play, which was a lot of fun. Didn't go dancing or anything, just hung out. Lots of friends came out. We probably had about a dozen people with us tonight, so it was really cool. But that was just our day here. So I'm enjoying a beautiful afternoon in Canales. It's such a lovely spot. It's out in the country, and it's funny because we've noticed that when you get the emails from the city of León saying that they're going to like have power cuts or something, because they'll warn, like, we're doing work, and so, for 15 minutes on this afternoon, be prepared, you may lose power, and they list all the neighborhoods that may be affected. And Canales is one of the ones that comes up, and I find it interesting because 99%, and I mean that, it's got to be in that range, of people who live in León have no idea where it is. And, none of the expats know. Nobody knows. I am the one person who takes the time to learn all the little neighborhoods and villages and outlying areas and barrios and all that, and have a pretty good idea where a large number of them are. And as I do this show with you guys, I'm constantly discovering more of them. And when I see the list, I'm like, no, I know where these are now. And then I know, oh, it's just the east side, just the west side, just the north, whatever. So I'll just do a quick turnaround so you guys can see it. This is a path that comes in, I don't even know where from. And we're kind of on the north side of Canales here. That is Nicaragua 14 down there. I don't know if you can see it. You can just make out the volcanoes in the distance, that direction. And there's Cerro Oro that I climbed a few months ago in this beautiful field with the sun setting here. What a gorgeous spot. This is the giant open field in Canales. And then you can't really see it too much. You can see a little bit of clothes hanging on a laundry line out there. That is the main road of Canales. That the intersection is straight down there at the end of this farm road. So that is this little community here. It is a tiny community way out, a little farming community, but it's really cute. It just has such a great spot for sunsets over a field, which is a thing growing up in the country I love. And so I like being able to walk out here, and it's nice and it's pleasant and it's nice sunsets and the clouds are beautiful and you can see some of the mountains. But there's really, most of the time that I'm out here, there's no one around, which is really nice that I can get a little country setting and relax, even though I'm walking distance outside the city. All right, so today's topic Nothing to do with Nicaragua, which, you know, this is not a Nicaragua channel. It just comes up a lot, right? Today, I want to talk about email security. And this is because, first of all, I work in IT and IT security. So security stuff is something that I do a lot of and I'm certified on, but also I'm a bit of a specialist on email. And so there's a lot of stuff about security and email that a lot of people don't know because they don't know how things work. And I don't want to get too technical, so I'm going to try to keep this as useful as possible for my viewers. But there are things you should know because there's an awful lot of just general common sense within the technology community. And even technologists may not be able to explain to you why some of those things are important. So let's talk a little bit. One thing is, if you are a business or you're doing business with, or you're thinking about doing business with a business, do not do business. It is not a legitimate business if they have like a Yahoo address, an Outlook, Gmail. And I know people say this and everyone blows us off. Technologists, IT people, they always say these things. In the real world, we just use whatever's free. This is absolute BS. And the reason is we all say it and we may not be able to articulate why we're saying it, why we're trying to protect you. But I do want to point out, before I tell you why, consistently, and for 20 years I've been hearing this, I'm so sick of, why do computers not work for me, but they work so well for my IT guys? And then the IT guys say, well, here's how I would do it, you could do this. And then the people say, I don't want to do that, I'm going to do something else. That's why things don't work for you. That's why things are insecure. That's why you get in trouble. Even if we're not explaining why we do it, maybe you should listen to the experts and not disagree with them and then be upset that things don't work as well. I'm not saying that you've done this, but I've had a lot of people say it to me, enough that I have articles, why do things work for my IT guy and not for me, right? Like actual articles that I've written, and in that case, it was listing out specific things that we did differently as IT that other people tended to skip. But a really key one is we listen to IT guidance. Right? I would never run a business with a Yahoo address, with a Gmail address, with an Outlook address. Never, ever. I have them for personal, yeah, but I would never conduct a business over them. I use them to test email. I use them for spam, right? They're not legit even for good personal use. Oh, I gotta turn the camera around. Random cow just popped out of the weeds and is walking down the road. You get so many loose animals in Nicaragua. It's hilarious that you'll just have a bunch of cows walk by or horses on the side of the road. You just never know what you're going to find. So IT professionals, we use custom URLs. That means we go out and we buy a domain, or our company has a domain, right? For personal, this is fine. If it's just your personal email, do whatever you want. But if you're going to do business over it, you're going to conduct transactions, you get a proper URL. So my company is ntg.co, and we own ntg.co. Our email comes from ntg.co. And you say, well, okay, that's nice. It looks nice. That's a marketing thing, and it's not that important. Sure. From a marketing perspective, that tells you one thing. If a company doesn't do that, it tells you that they aren't bothering to even look like a legit company. That's a level of laziness that should set off some red flags. But more importantly, and this is where people fall down, they don't remember that URL is the key fundamental security mechanism in emails. When you get an email from Gmail and everything says, oh, this is secure, it's from a verified sender, they're only verifying that it came from Gmail. You already know it came from Gmail. Anyone can send from Gmail. That doesn't help you, right? But when you get an email from ntg.co and it says this is really from an ntg.co server, you know ntg.co at very least meant to send this. Maybe we were hacked, maybe someone did it without authorization, but it really came from our systems because there's all this security in place to ensure that it did. And we're not going to go into how that works, SPF records, DKIMs, DMARCs, and all those things, but there are new, modern, and been around for a long time, mechanisms to provide a lot of security around email. But if you use something like Yahoo or Gmail, you are disabling that security. And there you have basically no way to be secure on those systems. So if you find a business that is doing that, they are either completely not a legitimate business at all, and by IT standards, they're not. There is no way to make a claim that you're an honest, legitimate business and don't have an actual email domain. The two are incompatible. But if you want to go so far as to claim, well, no, they are legitimate, they're just not doing their email well, then the best case scenario is that they are lazy and cavalier with your security. Now, if they're doing nothing over email ever, and you know to never do anything over email ever with them, okay, but they have to go out of their way to tell you, hey, just so you know, we will never conduct business over this email because it's insecure. We would be idiots to do that, and you should know, because anybody can send us them. This is one of the other key things you have to understand about email, and everyone should know this, is that anybody can send email as anyone else. There is zero security unless you implement these systems that I mentioned, SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Those do a really good job of making sure people can't just pretend to be you. But if you're doing business with people without their own URLs, or you're not checking for these things, or you disable it or whatever, then you're gonna give up that security that makes IT people pretty darn secure. And this is stuff that had to be added later because originally email didn't have that. But a lot of people believe if it says it came from someone, it must have come from them, or at least from their server. You get a fake email from someone, well, their server must have been hacked. That's not how it works. It's really easy to send email to someone else. I can send you an email as the President of the United States and you'll receive it. And if you don't pay attention to your email security, or if you're using something like Outlook or Thunderbird that strips off that information, you may not realize that it didn't come from a real server. This is another reason why don't use things like Outlook and Thunderbird. Don't use email clients, right? Move to the modern world. Email has more detail that it needs to tell you than those systems can. Just use the web interfaces. That's what IT people do, right? IT people are not generally using email clients. They're a huge pain to maintain. They're a huge problem to install. They're just a mess in most cases. There's exceptions, but in general, using things, and there's only 3 enterprise email carriers, right? Google, Microsoft, and Zoho. If you're using one of them and you get an email that is not from the actual person, they're gonna flag it. They're gonna tell you if they even deliver it to you. Right? If they do deliver it to you, it will be noted this is not secure or this is not from wherever. So those are the first 2 things. Make sure that anyone you're doing business with, including you, has a unique URL, unless it's just your personal email, again. And make sure that you're aware that anything you receive, you have to make sure it really came from them, because anybody can send as anybody. There's no native security around that in email. And it used to be a funny joke to send email as other people to people. Now, if they respond, it's going to do weird things. But if you're just receiving it, there's no way to tell. All right, so number 3, get your email from a real email provider. Basically, there's just Microsoft, Google, and Zoho. But Zoho offers free email. So if you have a domain or just want to use Zoho, it's free. Now, if you use Zoho, you're, again, going back to like being on Gmail, so you're defeating some important security. A domain is only like $9 a year. You can get it from Cloudflare super cheap. If you don't want to bother with Cloudflare, go get a GoDaddy account. It's going to be a few dollars more, but it's a few dollars more. This is super, super, super cheap stuff to own a domain. And this is just if you're a business and don't have a domain, you're not a business, period. Right? Legally maybe you incorporate it, but you can't face someone in a bar and be like, yeah, I own a business. Oh yeah, what's your URL? Oh, I don't have one, I just use Gmail. You're not a business, right? Don't make that claim. Don't act like we think you're a business, because we all know that's the fundamental, like, first day showing up, I'm starting a business, what's the first thing I do? I get a URL so I can send emails, make phone calls, buy things, communicate with people, do whatever. If you're not doing that, you're not even started your business yet. So don't play that game, and don't let other people play that game, right? This is, especially in America, I have found, I was just discussing this with someone the other day, America actually has a very high desire to not have confrontation. And because of that, it becomes a threshold for scams, a pathway for scams. Because, and you'll hear people say this, it's one of the most ridiculous things. And I'm going to have videos on this on my technical channel, not on here, but they'll often say, never attribute to malice what can be attributed to stupidity, right? That is social engineering. That is someone trying to hack you. They're trying to trick you. The real thing is, don't ever attribute to stupidity what could be predicted through doing what makes sense for someone, right? Oh, this person broke into my house and stole my television. He was probably just stupid and thought it was his own house. No, he didn't. He wanted your television, right? Like, that's not, right? So constantly, especially in America, this happens everywhere, but Americans especially have this, like, I don't want to call people out on what seems like an obvious lie, but you always have to give them the benefit of the doubt of being an idiot or whatever. And it's a really common tactic to play the I'm an idiot card, right? Oh, I'm going to steal stuff, but I'm only stealing it because I'm too stupid to buy it. I've actually had that said in the last week, right? And it's amazing that people will actually say this, that they'll take pride or act like they're taking pride in being incredibly uneducated and having no cognitive power. Like it's actually a thing to brag about, basically. But they'll also do it with this sense of, I know that I'm a doctor and I went through many, many years of university, but I'm just a doctor. I've had this again in the last week. I'm only a doctor. I'm not smart enough to understand stealing. Actually was said to me, right, by a doctor, that he was too dumb. He didn't have the education necessary to understand when he had to pay people for things he was stealing. And the thought process is, because you're not supposed to call people out on their lies, that you can say wild things like that and people will feel, well, I feel like he's lying. I got to give him the benefit of the doubt. No, you don't. He's lying, obviously, right? Don't attribute to stupid. No one's that stupid, right? This whole like giving people credit for being wildly stupid. And the reason that feels good, the reason that works, because you're saying, wait a minute, why would that's mentally, I wouldn't do that. Everyone is illogical. This is the first thing. We teach this all the time in business. You know, people are illogical. Learning to accept that you're illogical will help you be more logical. But also, one of the things that's incredibly difficult for humans to counteract is when other people say they're stupid in a way that makes you seem smart. If you want to get away with something, be like, oh, you're smart and you understand this. I'm doing something bad that's hurting people, stealing, hurting you, whatever. I didn't do the job I was supposed to do. It's because I'm too dumb to do it. This makes people feel good, because if you knew they were lying, you feel bad. People lying makes you feel bad, even if you're not the one lying. If they're lying to you, they hate you, they're stealing from you, all those things make you feel badly, like they don't like you, or they just don't care about you. Those are not good feelings. So we want to avoid them. And when other people say that they're stupid, that makes us feel good, because it implies we're not that stupid. Maybe we're even smart. And so we automatically have there's something crawling around, there's people walking around back there. We have an automatic reaction that we want to avoid discovering how dishonest they are, how mean-spirited they are. And we want to find out that we're smart, so much smarter, that it really changes our behavior, and that's what's going on. So at the end of the day, it makes us feel good to avoid what makes us uncomfortable, and it's like we're getting paid a compliment all at the same time. That triggers an emotional response that's really hard for people to get over. It feels so good. So you're like, oh, I don't want to avoid this feeling, and so we don't. And so there's this really powerful, there's cows, that's why I'm hearing there's cows walking through over there. I don't know if you can see them. There's a couple cows just coming off the path that I was just on. They're hiding behind that tree now. It's pretty funny. And so because it feels so good to just accept this answer, we will do that. And so it is such a powerful way to manipulate people. Pretend to be stupid in a way that makes them look good, and avoid having to call you out on being a terrible person or doing terrible things. It really works. So in email, you're going to find that same stuff happens. People will be like, oh, I didn't understand I had to do that with email. I didn't know I had to look for my security. I didn't know Yes, they did. Right? And as a business, I didn't know I needed to go get a URL. I didn't know I needed to ask my IT guy. I didn't know I needed a lawyer. I didn't know I needed an accountant. Yes, you did. Everyone knows, right? No one is at a point where they're actually opening a business and doesn't know that they need a lawyer, an accountant, and an IT guy on day one before the first decision gets made. Don't you ever buy a laptop in your business before you've consulted all those people, right? You have to have that information, because you're always going to miss something if you don't. Now, maybe you're one of those people. You're a lawyer starting a business. You don't need a lawyer. You're an accountant starting a business. You don't need an accountant. You're an IT guy you don't need an IT person. Unless you're one of those roles, you need that role. You need those insights before you start making any decisions, because unless you are those roles, you don't know when you're making decisions in that area. All the time, people start businesses and don't bring in IT until really core and large-scale IT decisions are made, and then it's too late. And IT, if they get brought in at all, are stuck fixing problems that are already entrenched, and money has been spent and momentum is underway, and now IT is not in a position of taking advantage of the greenfield. I'm going to turn around because you can see the cows going down the road. Instead of taking advantage of a greenfield to do the best job possible, to leverage advantages, you're already on the back foot, already at a disadvantage, and to do anything good, you're already in a position of having to correct the people who started the business and be like, oh, you didn't operate your business in a smart way, and you didn't make IT decisions in a smart way. So you've got two whole categories of not being smart. Those are hard things to say when your first day on the job, right? Your very first interaction with the company is you've not thought through how to be a business person, and now we have to fix your problems, and you're not going to want to fix them. Business people don't want to do that. So all of this, don't pretend that those business people didn't know. They knew, right? They may have thought they were going to get away with it, but not likely. They thought they could be excused, and in most cases they are. Oh, I didn't care about security because I didn't know any better. 9 out of 10 people are going to look the other way. Some of them do know that they're lying, but we really hate that they're lying, and we're going to lie to ourselves. People lie to themselves so much. Okay, so we're getting a bit off of topic, but it's important. There are no excuses in this email stuff, right? That's the takeaway. And that's what I'm trying to say with these. How does IT react? IT knows there's no excuse with these email rules. There's none of this. Oh, I didn't know. Yes, you did. Oh, it was too much work. No, it's not. Well, I didn't know it counted, that it applied to me. Yes, you did. Everyone. It applies to every business everywhere. So if you are dealing with a business and they give you a Yahoo, a Gmail, an Outlook, any generic email address, walk away, right? I don't care what they do. I don't care how good you think they are. They don't care about you. They don't care about security. They don't care about looking like a legitimate business. Why do you want to do business with them? That's the real question. Now you can talk to them. Look, I'm not willing to do this. Are you going to take the steps to become a real business? Wow, I didn't realize people cared that much. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Right? Correct people if that makes you feel better. But certainly don't continue to do business with people who are so cavalier with your security, because you don't know, right? And they don't know when someone's going to spoof them if they do that, right? Oh, they're using a Gmail address. Someone sends you an email as them and says, oh, I've decided to do business over this Gmail address. You don't know it's not them. That's the thing. There's nothing they can say or do when they have established that Gmail or whatever generic thing is their email to prove to you that nothing bad could happen to you, because that's how it works. It doesn't matter what they say, right? It doesn't matter that they wouldn't do it. Someone spoofing them can say they changed their minds. So these are kind of key. Then, of course, whenever you get an email that's fishy, anything that has a big change, especially if there's money involved, right? Oh, can you send money here? Can you change where money is go? Can you hold on to get on the phone and ask. Take a second channel, right? First of all, look at the email. See if they're legit from what you can tell. Take a serious eye. Don't just casually glance at them. That's what people do all the time. Well, it kind of looked like it could be him. Was it in the same voice? Well, no. Did it come from the same place? No. Is it even his email address? And half the time, no. Seriously? So put in a little bit of effort. IT people have to with every email. Or if there's anything even slightly fishy, delete it. Don't open it. Never click on things. Right? That's stuff that everyone knows, right? Everybody knows, don't click on links. If you're OCD, stop using email, right? There's people who just can't help themselves and will click no matter what, even when they know it's bad. Seriously, stop using email. Hire someone to read your email for you if that's what you have to do. At some point, you can't be physically at a computer and be safe. It just is what it is. But using a critical eye, using critical thinking. And if you have any questions, call someone, right? There are companies that will help you. If you're a business, you need to have IT professionals. They never run a business without IT on call, right? It is far cheaper to have IT than not to have IT. There's, again, nobody actually thinks it's cheaper to run without IT. They may think, oh, I've had bad IT in the past and they're expensive, but we all know that hiring bad people results, I hired a chef, but they didn't make any food and they set the place on fire. Chefs aren't worth the money. That is not the takeaway. That's completely illogical, and no one would believe you if you said that's what you believed. Of course, you need a good chef to make good food in a good restaurant. If you hired a bad one in the past, the problem is your hiring was bad. And sometimes it's not your fault. You can't always know. Don't beat yourself up over it, but don't have the takeaway that, employees are bad things and you can't have any. That's not the takeaway. Hire the right employees. They'll do the right thing. So if you've had bad IT experiences, well, go hire good IT people. Be critical. Do some thinking. If you don't know how to hire IT people, do some research on how to hire them. Find people to hire them for you. Like, this is not a hard problem in reality. I mean, I get it's a hard problem hiring good employees, especially attracting good ones, but IT especially, there's so much excellent outsourcing out there that costs so little and gets no business because people don't bother being discriminating about it. My gosh, it's not that hard. But people get really lazy, and they know that the people are not even IT. Oh yeah, they're selling me stuff. IT doesn't sell you things. That's by definition can't be IT, because their job is to protect you from people selling you things. How could they possibly be your IT if they're also the salesperson? Obviously they aren't, right? Just like someone selling you a house and being your buyer's agent can't be the same person, right? It's fundamentally opposing roles. You cannot do both, right? To do one means you're doing the opposite of the other. So which one is it? You have to pick and choose. Same with IT. If you're selling stuff, you're not the IT person. All things that businesses know, but they tell you they don't know. All things that they say, oh, I didn't know that. Yes, you did. You lied to yourself because it was convenient, right? So hold people to a higher standard. You will find that life is a lot more predictable and it works a lot better and your security will get a lot better. But you always can ask somebody. If you're in a position where you just feel you can't ask someone, delete it. Don't keep going. Don't trust the email. Always default to not trusting the email. But you can always call people. You can always text them. You can always do something. Get another sideband. Ask more questions. Don't let email trick you into clicking things, sending money, anything like that. Always be super vigilant. But if you do these first things, you have a lot of power. And some of this is for some of you own businesses. Do these things as a business. Some of you do business with businesses. Hold them accountable to doing these things as a business. Put those things together and it'll protect you. And this came up because I had a client who the business they were doing business with is the one who they were cavalier. They had a Yahoo email address. They got hacked. And then a whole bunch of stuff went on only because they had a Yahoo address. Had they not had a Yahoo address, the things that were happening would have been caught by the security system. But because they were using this generic Yahoo address, all of the security mechanisms that are in place to protect business transactions were disabled because they could not prove. We've got the puppy running around out here. This is the field dog. There's all these protections to guarantee that the emails are coming from the actual sender, and those did not exist in this case because of the decision to do business with someone who is using Yahoo, right? Let me repeat that. As a customer trying to pay this business, that business decided, and we had a call about this, and I actually said these words, if this vendor is blameless, if they're innocent here, which we're not convinced that they are, and I would say cannot be given the situation, they had a Yahoo email address. Their choice to use Yahoo for doing business, I say, is guilt itself. That alone, I'm not saying it's a criminal guilt, I'm saying that it is a guilt of creating a scenario for fraud. Not necessarily intentionally, but they were, and this is the words I said, at the very best, they were completely cavalier with your security, right? And the people I was doing business, that I was consulting with said, oh, well, you're right. Now we see that. This is a situation where we kept doing business with someone who didn't care about our security and put us at great risk. And terrible things happened, right? This is one of those tragic stories. No one died, right? Nothing like that. But a lot of money was lost through a scam. Now, maybe the vendor themselves are the ones who did it, probably not, but they might have. But they set this up. They premeditated a system by which they disabled all modern email security so that no one was able to detect when a scam happened. Nobody had the power to do that except that vendor. But the customer did have the power to see the vendor doing that and say, whoa, I won't do business with you because you're being cavalier with security, because you're not a legitimate business, because you don't have a URL tied to your email. We're out. That's all they had to say, and they would have been protected. Of course, they would have had to find another vendor. If they wanted to work with that vendor, they could have told them, sorry, you have to go do this really, really, really cheap thing, $12 a year or less. Go solve this so we have some security and we can transact by email. Or we will only transact it through some other means where we have some additional protections, right? Whatever that is, Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp. There's all kinds of things that will take you way beyond what email can do. And or what email does if you don't want to do those things. If you want to do the correct things with email is extremely secure. But if you disable it, if you allow them to disable it, it's going to be insecure. So don't allow that to happen. That's why I'm making this video. I'm giving you the tools to keep yourself secure. Because this vendor had set them up, intentionally or not, because they were cavalier with their security, all the checks and balances were disabled, but they're used to there being these checks and balances, so it didn't occur to them that they were being scammed, and there's no way to catch it, right? All those tools were gone. That was a lot longer than I had planned to go, but this is email consulting is a big thing that I do. I've built and maintained email systems, both as an email provider, as an internal for my own companies, and as a top-level consultant for some of the world's largest companies. And for the federal government, right? I've done it everywhere in all kinds of different reaches. And so this is an area of specialty for me. And on my Sam IT YouTube channel, I'm actually doing a series teaching email, because even people who do email full time and have for huge portions of their careers often don't actually understand how email works. Like it's a really confusing thing, and people use all the terms wrong. Even technical people tend to use lots of terms wrong and really get confused and then not understand how the pieces work together. So I'm teaching all that at an extremely both a high and very technical level, and I think it's very interesting. But this is my wheelhouse, and these are things that you need to know to protect yourself in the modern era. These are just things that computer literacy you need to know to be safe, and mistakes that most people make, thinking that, well, I understand that IT people say these things, but I can look the other way. I don't have to do this. Well, that's, and it's not just, I have to get this one last point out, because the person we are assuming that the vendor is not the person perpetrating the scam, only that they were cavalier with security, only that they played fast and loose and didn't care about being a legitimate business and didn't have any concern for their clients. Well, those are all bad things, but they're not criminal things. We're assuming that they were compromised because whoever compromised them, we have not determined who that is yet, targeted them because they used a Yahoo email address that flagged them as being cavalier with security and not taking it seriously, and that guarantees no qualified IT professional was consulted or listened to. Maybe you have one and you ignored them, maybe you don't have one, but they know there's no person who understands the basics of security. No one with a clue is in charge of that business, because if anybody with any common sense was running that business, they would never, ever have allowed a Yahoo email address to have been used. It makes them look incompetent. So anyone in marketing knowing what they were doing would have put the kibosh on it. Any CEO with a clue would have put the kibosh on it. Any IT person being consulted would instantly be like, whoa, knock it off. Don't do this. It's free to fix this. Why are you doing this? Right? So that is a red flag to someone who's a technical hacker who wants to get into a system. They know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they have a potential person to attack who is not concerned about their own security or the security of their customers. That gives them a really high likelihood of being able to find a password that's commonly used, not have them notice when their system's been hacked, aren't going to take responsibility and tell people when they've been hacked, all kinds of things. It gives you a really high level of assurance of how the person is going to react based on what you know about the decisions they've already made. And this is one of those things that I teach a lot. A lot of what goes into security with business is not just, yes, can we secure this thing? Can you do things in a bad way and can we make it fairly secure? Yes, but if you do things like this, and there's a lot of things like this, you're making yourself a target. Do you want to make yourself a target? Do you want to advertise that you're not taking it super seriously? Maybe you're taking it more seriously than the average person, but you're still setting yourself up to be a high profile target because it's so obvious that you're not putting security and IT best practices as job one. It's just somewhere in the list. That's probably what happened here. They saw easy pickings, low-hanging fruit. They advertised themselves as low-hanging fruit, and they got picked. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. I want to know what you think in the comments. Is material like this useful? I don't want to do this too often, and I hate to be like, you can't do these things, but this is serious. Like this is how people lose. I get called all the time by customers in a panic because they didn't listen, because they didn't pay attention, because they were just being very casual and thought, no, it will never happen to me. And of course, that's who it happens to, of all different types of scams like this. And I'm often brought in when it's way too late, right? No one wants to talk to the professionals when they're wondering if they're doing the right thing, or when they're setting things up, or when they're making the big decisions. They wait until bad things happen, and then they call us, and then they need us to do forensics and figure out what happened and help them in the future. It's very complex, but there's so much opportunity to fix these things ahead of time. So as a person who does that, I am the top level escalation for security with my firm. And so I'm almost always, when really bad things happen, they go, well, we're going to move this over to Scott, and then I'm the one who has to deal with this stuff. And so I see a lot more of it than average people do, even within my field. And these are definitely things that we could fix, right? We could basically make, with just a little bit of effort, you can make yourself so secure that no one will ever bother hacking you. Are you hackable? Of course, everyone is at some point, but you can make yourself just not on the radar. No one wants to bother hacking you because you're not worth it. That's where you want to be, right? You want to be where you're not worth the effort because there's so many other people just advertising themselves. Hey, hack me. I'm going to give you my bank account. I will fly there and hand you the cash in person, right? That's Let them do that. Don't be you. So let me know. I want to know, have you been scammed? What do you do? Do you need help with your business? All that stuff. Get down in the comments. Let's talk about it. And as always, if you'd like to support the channel and help keep this channel going, it'll allow for me to come out and take beautiful shots out here in places like Carlos Canales. There I am in the silhouette. Oh, that's cool. I like that. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. That comes directly to me. I've been told that maxes out at 10 coffees. That's a problem. We got to find a way. There are a few of you, not many, but a few of you who are looking to actually give me more than 10 coffees at a time. Of course, you could do 10 coffees today and 10 coffees tomorrow, but if you want to do something bigger, hit me up. Wow, thank you so much. That is a problem we have to solve, and we are easily going to solve it, but I think PayPal is probably what we're going to do. But that is amazingly fantastic that some of you want to do that. But no matter what, get out there and you can support the channel with a coffee. Share on social media, tell your friends about the show, and I will see all of you from beautiful, beautiful, calm, relaxing Nicaragua tomorrow.